Welcome back to the Composite Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we are joined by an absolute legend in the fitness industry. She's the current FMG bikini 35 plus world champion. Aftan Noon, welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. I love podcasts. They're just so fun to do.
Yes, of course. And I feel like you have such an inspiring journey to share. So I'm excited to dive into it. But let's start with if I asked you to describe who you were before bodybuilding, before the stage, before coaching, how would you answer?
Yeah, before bodybuilding, I was running track and field. So I started running when I was 11 years old. Actually, like foot races when I was like 8 and 7 against the boys and beating them. But so that's how it started, was just running track and field. And then I was just always active. And then my mother, she was very into health, very into nutrition. So we ate really healthy as kids. Not really, but healthy compared to the normal kids. So that's kind of what set the foundation for my fitness trajectory.
Yes, amazing. And was that sport kind of all the way through your upbringing? Like, what ages were you actually
Yeah.
competing in different sports?
Good question. So I started when I was in sixth grade, which is 11 years old. And then I ran throughout college at a D1 college. And think I still have the six records there at the university. I'm a sub 5 minute mile, so 4:53 miler, 2:08 half miler. And I stopped running when I was 28, which is actually a couple months before I started competing bodybuilding for a second federation. So right after college, actually, I started doing bodybuilding type training, but not significantly because I didn't want to be too heavy for my races. As I was like a more distance runner, it would have made me slower. So I did my first show literally a couple months after I graduated. Yeah.
Wow, incredible. So you
Yeah.
started competing like fairly young then.
Yeah, how old would I have been? 23. I was 23. I did my first show and I got second. I did figure because my lats were pretty big there and I had smaller legs at that point when I started. But it was so fun and it was with NPC and I just did one show and realized for me to be successful in it and win to the level I wanted to, I'd have to probably take enhancements and I'm not about that at all. So I'm like supernatural my entire life, besides like the creatine and the yohimbine and those types of supplements.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you like what was your upbringing like throughout all of that? And do you feel like that shaped who you are today as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. When you're an athlete in high school and college, it sets up a lot of things for you. You know, you're exposed to things early that I hear a lot of women just getting exposed to in their 40s. So we learn about visualizing, when you're in a sport, which directly helps in how your muscles actually fire up when you think about it, which is really cool to think about. What kind of, I guess, started the strength portion of it was when I was, let's see, when I was about 8, 9 years old, my neighbor's dad would flex his muscles, and I thought they were so cool. I was a tomboy growing up. And so he taught me how to flex my muscle, which is very like, I always call it there's a male version and a female version. And most girls, they'll flex like this, showing their bicep. But he taught me, Afton, like curl your fists in, bring it in and contract the like actual biceps. So like anytime I see a girl, I'm like, you're flexing like a girl, flex like a guy. So that was the initial excitement of muscle, was just being a tomboy and seeing it in other guys, because I always wanted to be equal to men when it came to strength and what I could do as a female. So I always wanted to prove to myself I could be just as good as the men. So that was like the initial start of wanting to get muscle. And then when I was 14, my dad had gotten one of those Bowflex type gyms in the basement with a leg extension. So I was doing leg extensions when I was 14 years old. And I started getting splits, because as a runner, you have low body fat. I was always sub 10 body fat in high school. So I've always been lean and have that. Part of it's probably because I wasn't much of an eater when you look back at what I actually ate, which wasn't a lot, but I was getting splits. So I had constant compliments, right? So my physique, I never was insecure about my physique. So I'm probably like the 0.009% where I had no insecurities about how I looked. There were internal insecurities with my mental, because I was bullied, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a little socially awkward. So that's where I really found like my niche was athleticism because I was looked at, I was getting first all the time and I was on announcements in high school. So people always complimenting and being like, "Oh my gosh, you have the best legs ever. You should be a model. You should do this, that." It like planted the seed, right? And then
Yeah.
when high school came along, I was in PE freshman year and I nearly failed it because of the testing, right? So I had reading comprehension growing up. I didn't think of myself as a very smart person. So it's like, let me capitalize on my body. Like I look really good and I can perform really good. So that's kind of what the formation of my identity was and still is to an extent going through things. So what really motivated me was that transition to weight training class instead of physical education class. So I started that, and the significance of high school is in high school, we have 4 years, and your fourth year, you can apply to be Mrs. Flex or Mr. Flex, right? So Mrs. Flex would flex their biceps, and Mr. Flex would flex his calves. And there would be a vote in your high school, and then you get that award with like a sash, and you can be in that homecoming parade, right? Which is pretty cool. So when I was a freshman, I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to win that. So one thing that's always been in me is belief in myself. And I think that came from my father. He's like, Afton, you can do anything you want to do, and then my mother was an overpraiser, which is what created a big ego at a young age. And I've been having to hack at that like the last 3 years and realize that's not a good thing to have that as high as I did. So that took probably some learning. In 2020, there was a big significant change with my like internal idea and identity and mental. Yeah, there's a lot I just unpacked there.
Yeah, I
But
think
so I went ahead and won it, but I knew 4 years, I'm like, I'm in high school. There's nothing else to do. I'm doing weights every day. So there was a common sense to physical fitness and weight training. Like I would read something and I'd comprehend it. We took anatomy in high school that was college level. I got to see a cadaver, hold a brain, learn all the different things. And it was just so interesting to me. And that's why I just hold on to it and excel at it, I believe.
yes, that is very cool and such a different, upbringing and different beliefs going through high school as a teenage girl, like actually wanting to have muscles. Because I think so many people get into the gym because they're wanting to change something about their body later in life, or they're not confident and then they're scared of gaining muscle, especially women. And then they kind of go down that path where eventually they want to have the muscle and they start competing. So I think that's very cool that from such a young age, you actually wanted to have that muscle and you had that confidence instilled in you from, your mum and dad as well. So very, very cool to hear that upbringing.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
your first time that you stepped on a bodybuilding stage? Like, what did that feel like for you?
Gosh, so the very first time was 2013, like fresh out of college. I couldn't even tell you what it was like at all. I have no memory, but if we go back to 2018, like my first WBFF show, I blacked out during my T walk and then came back to during, but I don't recall much besides excitement and seeing my coach in the audience smile at me and kind of give me direction of like my smile gets really goofy and big when I'm happy. So she's like, subdue it after. And you could tell she was like, okay, I'm like, control myself, model. So that's what I remember from the first show. And then the after show photo shoot was amazing. It was, it was Dennis Cruz at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just such a great shoot. I loved it. And I'm like, okay, modeling is what I want to do. So that was another thing, kind of going back. I set 3 goals for myself in childhood, and one was I wanted to be a model, I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to be the best in the world. I thought that was gonna be the Olympics, right, and go there. I was an art major in college, and so it kind of weaved in through my life with posing and the different things that are happening around. It came full circle. But yeah, that's how I felt during the first show, was just really acceptance with women, and we were all interested in the same thing. So with my background, having being bullied, I didn't have healthy relationships with friends or girls. And so this allowed me to have that. And, girls are mature at this age as well, because I think I was a little bit more deeper as a child. I would connect more with adults and trust them more than children. And like the little things of Susie said this and that, or look at my purse. Like I was not into those things. I was like, what is life? So I'm very much into like psychology and how the human brain works. Yeah.
Yes, very cool. And can you describe your journey from that first WBFF show to your world title in FMG? Like, what happened between all of that? I'm sure there's probably a lot
A lot.
took to get to that world title.
Yeah. So initially NPC show, and then I did a natural show, which is in an NBF. I got second in figure, and then I'm like, man, this just isn't really the body I want. This isn't really my thing. And I kept trying to run because I got signed to run professionally with a coach, but then I tore my hamstring on skis, water skis. And so that like took me out, and then we moved and got married. So all these things were happening, and I was still trying to run professionally. And at a point, I realized I asked my husband, who's a Division 1 track coach. He has actually, we went to the Olympics because he had some athletes. So I got to live my dream and go through him. So I get to like live a lot of my dreams through my husband, which is amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. I asked him, I'm like, George, are Olympic athletes, are they born or are they made? And he's like, oh, they're born. And I'm like, I'm not an Allison Felix. And so at that moment, I realized it was more important, like to focus on my career and my personal training because running wasn't going to make that for me, my career. So I actually did Rachel Dillon's Build a Booty program 2018, and I won it. I was the winner of it out of like, I don't know, thousands of girls or something. And so I have a good foundation of glute stuff just from her. And I saw that she did WBFF. So I did my first show and I got my pro card immediately. My second show, I got second. Word was I would have gotten first, but theme wear wasn't up to par or standards. So it would have been dope to get pro my first card, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. And then the third show, I went to Worlds for the first time, which was in Bahamas. And I got to meet, Hattie, who is like an OG, and Stephanie is my coach. So I hired her as well. So the shows were just really awesome and fun, and I loved them, and it was an outlet for me to become girly and like feel safe doing that because fitness girls aren't a normal type of girly that you would meet. It's like a determined girl, which is like hard to find sometimes, and that's how I am and want to surround myself around those people. So I competed at I like wrote it down. I've done a total of 15 shows. All right.
Wow.
3 FMG, 2 other ones, and then whatever the math is for the rest of 12 or 11. And I did Worlds. I got fourth, and then I did Worlds again, got third. Worlds again, got second. That was the year I felt like, oh, that's the epitome of Afton. 2022, blonde curly hair, blue suit. A lot of you guys can remember that. It was just amazing. And then I did Worlds the last year, and like nothing really felt right. And that's when the FMG Federation came to be. And so I did initially the first show, Bikini Athletic, because I'm like, okay, according to that last federation, I could like fit right in the middle because bikini was a lot heavier body fat then. And I didn't fit in it at all. And they're like, Afton, you could be a bikini champion at the FMG one. And I'm like, okay, this isn't the first time someone said that. So I did wellness in 2021. And they're like, Afton, you could have won the bikini category. So it's just a weird mix. And it's like, I finally got to fit into something that worked for my body type because my body's interesting. It's very small boned, but big muscle bellies.
Yeah.
So structurally, I'm tiny next to people, but individually, I look pretty big and muscular. So that bikini category was just the perfect fit, especially now I'm in my journey, like to motherhood and trying to get pregnant and all of that. I want to keep a little bit more body fat to keep my hormones under check. So that's the next adventure for us. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so exciting. And what a massive journey hearing how many shows you've done. Like, that's crazy. And I feel like you've been around in the competing scene forever because when I first started competing, which must have been like 2021, I remember watching YouTube videos of you posing, and you were
Yeah.
like one of the only ones posting on YouTube about posing and all of that. So I feel like, you've probably inspired so many people's journeys, which is so cool. And it's cool to hear how many shows you've actually done to get to that point of winning a
World
world
champion.
title. So how did that actually feel when you were crowned the world champion?
Yes. Okay. So initial feeling of world champion was mission accomplished, right? I had this dream I wanted to do for such a long time and was always chasing it. And I'm like, mission accomplished. And then I kind of like made eye contact with Pauline, the head judge. And all of a sudden I just started like crying. And I've never cried at a show ever when I won. It was just like it was like an emotional, I don't even know how to explain it, but that was the initial feeling. And then after the show, people are asking, "How do you feel about being a world champion and all that?" And I'm like, I felt like I was a world champion in 2021, like my first world show. Like I felt like I deserved to be a world champion. And I've had that mindset. I am a world champion, although I didn't get the title. So it kind of just feels like it was my essence and my becoming to be that. There was a moment like 6 weeks out from the show, I was in the shower and I realized like I had a feeling I was going to win this one, right? Because I just turned 35. So I'm entering the 35 category as a younger one. Also, like, black don't crack. So I got that beautiful skin, for my age. And so I'm like, this is gonna be it. I'm going to win. And like I knew I was gonna win. And most of the time when I do win shows, I have the feeling I will. And I started crying because I'm like, the chase is over, the dream is over. Like, what's next? You know what I mean? I'm like, part of the excitement is reaching toward this thing that's so important to me. And I was like crying in the shower, almost like, what's the word when you like lose or like you're going through loss? What's that called?
Yeah, like grief almost
Grief.
about
I
the
was like
goal.
grieving, no longer reaching for a world champion because I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so interesting, and I think, like, something that people probably wouldn't realize until they actually reach that big goal that they've been striving for so, so long. Is there
Yeah.
anything you feel like you had to let go of to become the woman who could win the world title?
Well, the old federation I had to let go of. Sometimes I feel like when I felt like things were already, and this isn't good for my mental, but I felt like things were already set in stone. Like I felt like things were going to happen as they were just because of how things were, right? And so part of me didn't believe it was going to happen for me because I felt like it was set in stone. So I think the best thing is turning into this new federation where I feel like it's so freeing. You don't have to be anything that you don't have to be. There isn't like scare tactics with money or finances or anything like that. So I think I feel like nothing was holding me back. Like in the past, I was told that often you'll never win because you don't have the look, right? I've heard that through people. And I
Yeah.
am like a natural person. I don't look the in beauty when it comes to the facial things that happen or like the tone and the body. So me knowing, okay, this is a new federation, like this is my chance. This is my chance, right? So that's kind of, I guess, to answer your question. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then moving on to posing as well, because you're obviously a posing coach and your posing is absolutely incredible. How did you actually get into teaching posing? And like what made you want to teach others to pose?
Yes. Okay, so let's backtrack to modeling. I always wanted to be a model. I'm 5'3", which is pretty short, so I was never like tall enough or had, the facial structure to be a model. The only paid gig I ever had was New Balance going on their website. Other than that, like modeling is hard as a bodybuilder because you're mainly trading for photo or you're paying for these photo shoots. So a lot of people think influencers, oh, are getting paid to do this. They aren't unless they're like advertising something. So that's one thing is doing that. And then I actually was a head modeling coach at the university. So there's a modeling organization. So I learned under some people like, okay, how to walk, how to pose. We do runway shows. So bringing it back in 2020, because of the YouTube video I produced, lots of people saw it and people would come up to me and say, I saw your video on repeat, or I watched it and really trained for the show and like it helped me, just like you were saying.
Yeah.
And then so Michelle McDonald with Tulum Strength Club, she's like, Afton, have you ever thought about being a posing coach? And I'm like, not really. Like it's trickled in sometimes, but I don't know how to start that sort of business. Um, just kind of things came together and I had gotten COVID after that 2020 show and I had like a week, 14 days of not doing anything in my house. I'm like, let me look up DBA, how to start a business, how to make a website and how to get this together because those are the things that hold me back is the how to's, right? I have to kind of be shown or directed and then I'll flow it right away. So that's how it got made was basically a YouTube video that's 15 minutes long, lots of free information and then people just coming to me based off of like how I present myself on stage and all that. The cool thing with posing is I was never in I was an in-gym trainer for 7 years, but I started to not get joy in it the last 4. Like, I actually started getting anxiety, had a panic attack, it was just awful. And so online training was something I ventured into, and I helped with, like, Dynasty a little bit, train some of their clients, which was fun and taught me how to integrate the fitness app that I use now for clients. But with posing, it's like art, and it's kinesthetic movement, right? And it's fitness, it's just everything tied together, and I absolutely love it. It's so fun because I was an art major in figure painting, so I painted naked and nude bodies all the time. So when it comes to how the body looks, I know how to make it look like pretty. There's this ratio, I don't know, the golden ratio or something where it talks about like angles and certain things. So like I try to approach my clients that way. It's not always about like what you're doing, but like how does your angle look, from afar versus each muscle group, you know? Um,
Yes. Very cool. And then
I could talk about it for hours.
yeah, you can tell you're so passionate about it, and I love, again, like, the different approach to it. I think a lot of posing coaches are probably very much like, "Okay, here's, in a box, all the different poses you can do. What one's gonna look best on you?" Whereas you're looking at, like, the actual angles and the art form of it, which is very, very cool. When you are teaching posing to someone, what's the first thing you start with?
First thing is rapport, right? Like any client. I want to talk to you on the phone. I send out a survey so you can kind of tell me how you want to feel on stage, if you've had a coach before, all of that. So, kind of that intro things. The first thing we learn together is kind of to break it down, I have syllabuses for clients so they know what they're learning each week and we might move faster or slower. We learn comparisons first, as that's the most important. And then once we lock in your best front, back, side poses and your walk, then we'll start to create a routine for you. And then from that, we just get more specific with arm movements, facial expressions, facial angles, tempo. And then we also talk about like bikini color or hair. Sometimes I'll see someone where they just don't look flattering with the hair that they're doing right now. I'm like, maybe do this or that. So I am very critical about my clients, but it never comes off rude or mean because I always give them something, a step to fix it. I'm not criticizing, but I'm like, here, do this instead. you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the first thing with posing. Yeah.
Perfect. And then I know a lot of women struggle with confidence as well. So, what's the best way to build this, particularly when it comes to posing?
Yeah. Confidence is rough because it's internal more than it is physically moving your body. I mean, there's two things that go hand in hand. One is like loving yourself to where you can express you instead of like mimicking. And then the other is body awareness. So a lot of people do not have body awareness. And what I mean by this is they can't comprehend what they look like from an outside eye. So, for example, how I'm moving right now, I know what I look like to you because I know what I look like in reverse, right? And like how my hands and arms are moving. So, a lot of people are just doing stuff, but they can't like see the opposite. Like, how is a judge seeing you? And how does that angle look? And then once you practice it over and over, it gets into your body. So, that automatically is just confidence in itself is the love you have for yourself shining through, knowing that you gave it like 100% effort. I see girls go on stage way too early for how they're ready, right? And they aren't my comp prep clients, but they're like other coaches and they're training with me and they're so insecure. And I'm like, if their coach just trained them for like 2 more years, we wouldn't have this problem where I have to like help just boost rather than like technique in a way. I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah,
but
that makes a lot of sense. I think, like, when you've got that whole package and the presentation and you're actually in condition and you fit your categories criteria, you kind of know that, and I think that helps that confidence so much as well, just knowing that you're actually ready to get on stage in terms of posing, like, you practiced it for long enough, but then also in terms of how your physique is actually looking.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of it. Are you giving 100% in every area?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
what is one thing you wish every competitor knew about posing?
That it's hard and they need to start early, right? I think that's the biggest thing is just start early, have a coach. Something with posing is you need to be more flexible than you think you do. And there's certain areas where a client might be lacking in their physical body that I might mention that I'm like, oh, you need to do more adductors as an example. Or I'll see like muscle groups that will structurally like pull them back or help anything or make them look better for their category. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
then moving on to your resilience and your mindset, because I feel like that is such a big part of your superpower and what's gotten you to where you are today. Has there ever
Yeah.
been a moment in your journey through competing in bodybuilding that you almost quit or you doubted if this sport is right for you?
Yeah, I'm not a quitter at all, so I don't quit. If I have a goal, I push toward it, and if at some point it just doesn't happen, I change my route. But I have thought about like stopping certain things because it was taking forever to win my world championships. Not stopping, but doubting. I'm like, I don't know, but it doesn't last very long. It lasts for like 2, 3 days, and then I'm back to like confident Afton, and then if you're tired or fatigued or you look a little puffier in the mirror, you might feel that way. But yeah, I'm like, no, this is the dream. This is gonna happen. Like I promised the little girl inside of myself that I was gonna do this. So I made her proud and yeah.
Do you feel like that promise that you've made to yourself is kind of what keeps you showing up through those hard days and when no one's watching and you have to push those extra reps? Does it all come down to that sort of promise that you made to yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Because I said it was going to happen, you know? Some people get nervous to like fall back on their promises, I guess. I always talk about intrinsic and external motivation, right? Intrinsic really stays with you longer than the extrinsic. And I've always kind of reached more for extrinsic, I feel like. But internally, like what makes you feel valued as a human being, right? We all are like, what is our existence and our purpose? And it's whatever makes you happy and you satisfied. Like it doesn't matter what anyone else wants for you. It matters what you want for yourself. So I think people need to stick to the reality of what they actually want and not get blurred vision by what others are wanting. You know, like I'm really interested in like gardening and book clubs and like there's different things that might not be in right now, although it's like coming to surface in right now. It's just find what you love and do that.
Yes, I think that's so powerful. And then are there any beliefs that you hold about yourself now that would have shocked your younger self?
Well, like y'all, I believe in God. When I was younger, I was non-religious. I didn't believe in anything. My mom was Unitarian, my dad Baptist. Like I truly believe in God now, and I feel like spiritually closest to him when I'm prepping, right? It's going to look different now that I'm not prepping. I still try to find that connection with him, but when I pray, those prayers come to fruition. Pray boldly, pray big. Like I wanted to learn how to do online training. I prayed about it a week few later, I got an email from this company that does a fitness app and they're like, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" Yeah. And I have a lot of my foundations when I onboard clients just from learning that. In the meantime, I also prayed for like a mentor that would help with my shows. And I've had 3 shows fully helped. Like, I wouldn't have been able to live my dream without this mentor having done that and me having to pray to God about it. So I feel like that's the biggest surprise is that I'm like a Christian God lover. I'm not super crazy. I don't even know what you're saying, but like, yeah, I do have belief now and just how smart I am, right? Having felt like I was stupid growing up or that I wasn't a very lovable person because I felt rejected by my peers. So feeling like I am pretty smart in a instinctual way and
Yeah.
like a psychological way rather than book smart.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's such a misconception about like what smart is when you're going through school and you're just sitting exams and doing tests and learning stuff that honestly half of it doesn't even matter now. But then if you can be smart, on an emotional level, but then also just in life in general and making decisions and those sorts of things, I think that's so much more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is next for you on your journey? You mentioned you're probably not prepping now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Everyone's gonna know now. No. So I'm taking the year off because my husband and I are trying to get pregnant. And I posted on like my stories and stuff that after I was on birth control for maybe 15 years, I think, straight, and then I got off of it and never had gotten my cycle back. So on progesterone right now, trying to get a cycle back and also get pregnant. So we got like a couple of good signs. There's a little bit of spotting. Like I know it's TMI for guys, but a little bit of spotting. I'm like, oh, something's happening. So that's what's happening this year. And I'd hope to be back for 2027 Worlds in the US. But we'll just kind of see because I have no idea what being a mother is going to be like, till it happens.
Yes, that is so exciting and a different kind of growth journey for you, which will be very cool to follow.
Yes, it's going to be cool.
One last question. What do you hope people take away from your journey that you've shared, especially women who feel like they're not good enough or they don't fit in?
Yeah, I guess the best advice is fail forward. So many people use the word failure is not even in my vocabulary. Like if I just don't do something, I just don't do it and on to the next, right? I'm very good at rebounding. In the movie The Notebook, have you seen it?
Yes.
Where he's like, you're like a, I don't know, bitch 99% of the time and then you recover like really quick. Like that's how I am. I just kind of recover and move on to the next thing. Probably because I don't like discomfort, although there's a part of me that does. Fail forward, fail a lot, and don't think of it as a bad thing when you don't perform the way you want to. Because when you aren't performing well in the gym and you're pushing hard and you're failing, like that's a great thing. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess from my journey, it would be to be kind, show love, and know you can be inspired by my journey, but also know your own, right? Yours could look completely different from mine. Yeah.
Yes, I love that so much. I'm feeling so inspired right now. So, where can people learn from you if they want to, be coached by you or pose with you and follow what's coming next as well?
Yeah, so I have 3 Instagram pages now. I just got a third one. We have Aftan Noon Delight. That's my page where you can see modeling photos, gardening, me chatting about my life. We've got Pristine Posing by Afton, which is my posing business, which is awesome. I love it. Definitely hired me as your coach this year. And then I just opened a page, Pristine Fitness. So I've coached lifestyle clients and I'm now taking on competition prep clients. So
Honey.
it was an insecurity of mine for a while just to coach a competition person because for me, like I want to coach people to win. That's my mindset. I have a winning mindset. So I'm not just going to coach through to lollygag. I do have my lifestyle clients, but I'm like, if we're doing a competition together, we are doing a competition together. We're doing top 5, top 3. So you have to just kind of be patient with the process with me. But that's Pristine Fitness by Afton or without the by Afton. Yeah.
I'll find them all and link them all below so people can click the links and make sure they
Okay, beautiful.
follow. But thank you so much for your time and for sharing so much and being honest about your journey. I truly do think it'll be so inspiring to anyone who is listening right now.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. And thanks to our listeners as well. If you could share this episode to your stories and tag Afton, tag myself, tag the comp closet. We love to see what you learned from the episode or what you're up to while you're listening. Thanks so much.